The Joe Rogan Experience.
I need help. I desperately need people's help. So we have spent $7 million building the world's first nationwide monitoring system that is doing to those bastards what they do to us and our kids 24 hours a day. We are surveilling them for the first time. We are finding overwhelming evidence that they are very deliberately and systematically messing with us and our elections especially. I personally believe that as of 2012, the free and fair election, at least at the national level, has not existed.
It's just been manipulated.
It's just been manipulated since 2012. I say this in part because I met one of the people on Google's tech team, on Obama's tech team, rather, I should say, which was being run by Eric Schmidt, head of Google at the time. And I talked to him at great length about what the tech team was doing. They had full access to all of Google's shenanigans, all those manipulations. And one member of that team asked by a reporter how many of the 4 points by which Obama won, how many of those points did he get from the tech team? And the guy said, Elon Kriegel, I believe his name is, it was actually quoted. And he said 2 of the points came from us. Now, Obama won by 5 million votes, roughly, and 2 out of 4 points came from the tech team. That's 2.5 million votes. By 2016, I had calculated that Google could shift, and it would be toward Hillary Clinton, of course, whom I supported at the time, that Google could shift between 2.6 and 10.4 million votes to Hillary Clinton in that election with no one knowing. She won the popular vote by 2.8 million votes. If you take Google out of that election, the popular vote would have been tied. A couple days after that election, all the leaders in Google get up on stage. This I'm sure you've seen this. It's an amazing video. And they're talking to all of Google's 100,000 employees, and they're one by one, they're going up to the mic and saying, we are never going to let that happen again.
Yeah.
We are never going to let that happen again.
Which is democracy. They're never going to let democracy happen again.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
And that's so crazy to be blatantly and openly talking about that.
And in 2020, we didn't
have... As if it's a virtue.
We already had a pretty big monitoring system. We preserved 1.5 million ephemeral experiences. Our data show that Google shifted at least 6 million votes to Joe Biden, who won the popular vote by about 8 million. So again, take Google out of the equation. That would have been pretty much a tie in the popular vote, and Trump would have won 11 out of 13 swing states instead of 5. So going forward from roughly 2012, I think the free and fair election has been an illusion. And this is something that's very weird and kind of ironic, but this is something that Dwight D. Eisenhower warned about in that last speech of his farewell speech. He warned about the rise of military-industrial complex. Everyone's heard about that. But he also warned about the rise of a technological elite that could someday control public policy without anyone knowing. And the technological elite are now in control. That's what we have. That's where I get back to my ranting and my pain, because I realize no one is paying attention. Eisenhower said we have to be alert or this will happen. We have not been alert. And the fact is, people right this second, who I give speeches to sometimes, they get all riled up and then they walk out of the auditorium with their surveillance phones. Mine is not. This is a secure phone. But they walk out with their surveillance phones in their pocket and they use all the surveillance tools that Google has set up for them, and other companies too now. And they think, isn't this nice? This company's doing all this nice stuff for me and giving me all this free stuff. That's not the business model. All those free things are just apps that trick you into giving up personal data. And then they monetize the data and they use it to control you. That's what's really happening. That's the business model. And people can't see it. And I'm telling you, I've been working on this for 12 years, and it's gotten to the point where I am wiped out. I am fed up. I am exhausted. I am disillusioned. And I'm lonely because since Misty was killed 5 years ago, I sometimes feel like I'm literally dying of loneliness. And the fact that other people around me have been hurt, one quite seriously, makes me a little nervous too. And that's where I am at this point. And it's a terrible place to be. Terrible. Now, it took $7 million to build what we've built, but it's been really tough. Okay, we're talking about like raising $1 at a time. It's been really, really difficult. And for us to set this up so that it's actually permanent and self-sustaining, and so we have court-admissible data in all 50 states, which will make these companies think. It'll make them think twice maybe. That is going to require at least another $50 million. That gets us a secure facility and our own servers and a security team. We have virtually no security. Hear that, Google? And they know this because a couple months ago, they attacked us in an extremely sophisticated way. I've never seen this before.
When you say they, who?
I don't know.
Someone.
I don't know. Google has...
What did they do?
It was very, very unusual. It was not... It was not the usual thing. What they did was they got our accounts. They got our apps to run kind of at ludicrous speed, I guess you could say. And what they did was they pulled in more and more and more servers until we were running so many servers simultaneously that we actually got shut down in the cloud, and we lost access to our own data for almost 2 weeks. Now, we've never seen an attack like that. Even our security people had never seen an attack like that. It was really pretty damn
And what
clever.
was the mechanism of this attack? How'd they do it?
We're not sure how they got in. Once they got in, all they did was they just created a tremendous amount of activity so that pulled in more and more resources.
And this is definitely created? This is not organic?
Oh, no. It's absolutely created. But and now that we know about this particular kind of attack, if it happens again, we'll be up within 2 days max. But the point is there's a lot of pressure on us. So we need a lot of money to set up a secure facility, have security teams, not just protecting our data, but protecting our people. We have to protect our people.
Have you ever talked to Elon about this stuff?
I've never had a way to reach him.
Well, hopefully someone will take this clip and put it on X, and he's a junkie. He'll be on it all day. So hopefully someone will put it to his attention and put it up there, because I'm sure this is very concerning to him. I mean, he has a vested interest in this. Clearly, what happened when he purchased Twitter and he found out the extent of government interference in free speech, and how many people were being pressured to not talk about certain things that were inconvenient, or how many accounts they were trying to get taken down because these accounts were purveyors of misinformation that turned out to be absolutely accurate. He has a deep distrust, for sure.
Well, he has a few times lately. He has retweeted content about my work, so I
he's
think
aware.
He might be aware. And there's another way also, by the way, to take down Google, which I published this in Bloomberg Businessweek. If you go to Epstein and businessweek.com, you'll actually see the article. And we've reached the point where data have become an essential part of our lives. And the way to take down Google is to do what governments have been doing for hundreds of years, to declare their index, the database they use to generate search results, to be a public commons. This is exactly what governments do when water, electricity, telephone communications, any commodity, any service becomes essential. Governments at some point have to step in. The electric companies, They were all privately owned. I didn't know that. I didn't realize that. They were all privately owned until the government had to step in. And this is where we are now with data. And the biggest, baddest database in the world is Google's, because it's the gateway to all knowledge. It needs to be declared a public commons. As I say, ample precedent for that in law. It's very light touch regulation. And what it'll do is it'll allow other people to draw from the database to create their own niche search engines. So, you'll create a search engine for people interested in DMT and UFOs. Someone will create one for women, for Lithuanians, we'll end up with thousands of these search engines, all of which are vying for attention. It will be exactly like the news, the news media, that domain. And that's the way it should be. Search should be competitive. Google was not the first search engine. It was the 21st. So that's how you do it. And also, then search would become innovative again. There have been no innovations in search for the 20 years that Google has dominated search. So General Ken Paxton of this great state of Texas, he's interested in this. Senator Cruz is interested. Other people are interested. This would be tough to implement in the U.S., but the EU could do it, because 5 of Google's data centers are in the EU. The EU could do it in a flash. And they're very frustrated with Google because they've been trying to keep them under control for a long time now, and they've failed. So there are some things that could be done. Permanent large-scale monitoring system, that is a necessity. That must be there, because if you don't have that, you don't know what these companies are doing. You don't know how they're messing with our minds, with our kids' minds, and with our elections. You have to monitor, and you have to have court-admissible data in every state and probably in every country. And then they will pull back a little bit because they have to. They're violating campaign finance laws when they very blatantly support one candidate or one party. They're making huge in-kind donations without declaring them. So another thing they're doing right now, perfect example of something our system is capturing right this second. Right this second, Google is sending registered to vote reminders to Democrats at about 2.5 times the rate they're sending them to Republicans. How do I know? Because that's what the monitoring system shows. That's what they're doing. At some point, that's going to turn into partisan mail-in-your-ballot reminders. And then that turns into partisan go-vote reminders. These are just displayed on Google's homepage. We're capturing the homepages by the millions. If you don't capture them, then the content is ephemeral and it disappears and it's gone forever, and you can't go back in time and figure out what they were doing. So monitoring is no longer optional. By the way, monitoring is fast. Unlike regulations and laws, monitoring can keep up with whatever the tech company is dishing out. The next company, the next Google after that, monitoring can keep up. If you're going to have an internet, and it can mess with people's lives, and it can mess with governments and elections and so on, then you've got to have monitoring systems in place.